Oh, I know.
Especially from that venue.
Okay, so I think we're going to get started.
Yeah.
My name is Denise, and you are in the session for public spaces. I'll use my phone for timing, and the objective, of course, is to share ideas and thoughts on making Stratford better. We're going to be cooperative, and we're going to have solution-based brainstorming going on. Candidates and non-candidates are each going to have 2 minutes, and we have a 20-minute session. I will say thank you at the end of your 2 minutes, and if we have time at the end, we can go around again. So, Geza, if you would like to start. If anybody doesn't want to say anything, please just say pass, and I'll just hit. Okay, go ahead. Oh, okay, sorry. Carla, hang on, let me restart. Are you ready, Carla?
Yes,
Okay, Carla, go ahead.
I'm a big fan of public spaces. I'm down in Market Square every day. I use it more or less as my office. I'm a writer. Try to get as much done there as possible. I like how much we're using, especially Market Square. We could be doing more. I'm glad that we have a new person on council to help out, or working with City Hall to organize what's going on in Market Square and get events, and sometimes doing that is not always awesome, figuring out the ins and outs of it. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Mary, would you like to say anything?
I'm going to pass.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I have anything to contribute right now.
Okay. All right. Martin, would you like to say anything?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was just saving it for my
I do believe public spaces are the core of any community. And I think we can learn, so I enjoy going to Europe. I should spend more time in Canada, but because you see it, you see their public spaces, and you had mentioned earlier the Market Square. We use Market Square for kickoff for the United Way, and I think people just went, whoa. And somebody said, well, if we do this for one thing, then we have to do it for others. And I said, why not?
That's what it's there for.
You know, it's a public forum, and if it's a not-for-profit function, then we can figure out something to recoup some costs. I think you mentioned, and I'm glad I was part of that, hiring a communications officer that can bring those different dynamics together when you're using the public space. You know, the cooperation amongst cities, when we were doing the kickoff, we said, well, we need this, this, and this, and it wasn't magic, people made it happen. So I look at the Rotary Complex, and that's been there for almost 10 years, and I sat on that design committee. And our goal, we wanted to, at first people said, no, we're not having a community hall, and I said, we cannot not have a community hall. We look at Soups On and Heartburn Day, all those functions where regardless of your economic status, you come and you're part of it. You know, you look at the Fall Fair where we have no admission at the Fall Fair. Is it advertising, cheap advertising for me? We have no admission, it's a public space, come and enjoy. And so I'm pleased with what we have in Stratford for public multi-use facilities. You look at the Agriplex, in the wintertime there's, you know, 16 badminton courts, and in the summertime there's 300 cows. So public space, I think we do it well in Stratford, but we certainly can do it better. Sorry, Denise.
No, that's okay.
I took a bit of June's time.
Thank you. If we have more time at the end, we'll come back. That's okay. Cassandra, would you like to say anything?
Just briefly, I'm not an expert on public spaces, but I like green public spaces. And when I say green, I don't necessarily actually mean environmentally friendly, I mean physically green. So I like grass and trees and things. And we have some nice green public spaces, such as the cemetery, even parks by the river. And I hope with the development of Stratford, I see the maintenance of our green public spaces and potentially more, and not the removal of green public spaces. That's all.
Thank you. And Jo-Dee, would you like to say something?
I would.
Okay, go
Jo-Dee.
ahead.
A couple things. I really like Market Square. I'm very glad that it's not a parking lot anymore and a bus depot. I would have liked to see one of the other plans enacted, but it is what it is, and I think it's a great space. I would like to see the elimination of the parking and the little road that runs through in front of Market Square. Personally, I think that detracts from the space, and I would like to see that eliminated so that it's an entirely a pedestrian space. The other big public space that we're all probably going to want to talk about eventually is the Grand Trunk. What is that what we're calling it now?
Yep.
The hub.
Yep.
Yeah, so my thoughts on that is sooner's better.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get our finances together and figure out what this is all going to cost us, and then put together a good plan, I'd like to see that happen sooner than later. I've been talking to quite a few seniors actually who are now over at the Rotary Center. And for instance, my dad's in the Bridge Club, and I met the Bridge Club ladies at the Symphony the other night, and they were like, well, we really don't like the Rotary. And I'm like, why not? They said, the space isn't conducive to playing bridge. They've lost half of the players that they used to have. It's cold in the winter, it's hot in the summer, and, sorry Martin, they really were mad about getting bumped by the fair. So it's like they feel like their senior center should always be their senior center, and they should not have to shut down for a week or two in order to accommodate other activities. So the solution I see to that is that we hurry up and get the space built for them that they need. And we have money allocated from the Tom Patterson. So if we can't put it in at the hub quickly, then we should perhaps look at another space where we can, within the next 4 years, build a senior center. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Dan, would you like to say something?
Yes, and I got written down here, #1 community hub, and I echo a lot of what Jo-Dee is saying. It's absolutely priority for our seniors that have been displaced, that we get a proper facility for them. I see that through combinations of the funds that we've got from the festival and sales of some of those lands that were listed in the master plan. We did that as housing and stuff. And moving on, and I also see that community hub, and I really caution us, and this kind of goes along with Cassandra, let's not make another Market Square over at the Cooper site or the Grand Trunk area. Like, let's make it green. Let's not recreate what we have. We can recreate something new, but let's not repeat what we have there. I think that would detract from what we have downtown. I enjoyed the square. I really see the square as pedestrian only, to get rid of the parking. And you may say, Dan, you were all about parking. No, I asked what the parking alternatives were, and I see a little pilot program in the summer of shutting it down for 3 months and having a shuttle run from the Cooper site and have way signs and encourage businesses, the festival, to get our tourists to park there and ride a shuttle downtown. It's easy to park, you go there, it does a circle. And ultimately, with our electric car, when they wanted to start a test, I think that's an excellent way, the driverless car, to do that.
All right, thank you. Geza, would you like
Okay,
to
yeah,
say something?
public space, yeah. And when I came the first time, I moved from Europe. I used to live in Belgium, in Holland, and like small city like Stratford, they have a special underground like parking.
Mm-hmm.
There is no parking. And then okay, when I see the bus downtown, like smoking and oh my God, it's never happened. But now it's good, you know, we're enjoying a lot of newcomers gathering. This is a space where people gathering, newcomers, the tourists. Sometimes people sitting drinking coffee, for example, while you're working. And then thank you for council, you did this good job, right? And that's it. The second thing is, still we need for retirement people. My grandma, grandpa, my wife, mom, they born here and they retire. They used to play down by bowling, what do you call it?
The lawn bowling?
Yeah,
Yes.
they miss that.
Yes.
Oh my God. That is, you know, for me, oh my God. Okay. Anyhow, we have to think for retired people. We need space for them. One. Second, also, the young family, there is no any swimming pool. I'm young family, we driving to seminary, we driving New Hamburg, there is clean water. I'm honest to tell you, that is we have to, we have to be public space in Stratford, right? We are not, competing with Mitchell or somewhere. We are competing internationally, right? And the people they know us were I don't know, Stratford. When I was in Russia, I know Stratford. Not only Justin Bieber, of course. We know Lorena McKenna, she's from Stratford. We know Shakespeare from Stratford. Please, this is, we have to fight, and I think we need more voice for public.
Okay. All right, and that's all. Okay. Do we want to go around again? June, maybe you want to say anything?
Can we just open it up for conversation? Is that allowed? Or?
I think so. We're all
You can have
in
some
agreement.
2 minutes, Jody.
Well, I just it just seems easier than being so formal.
Yes.
Like if you want to say something in response to somebody, what they said,
Would you like to say something, Martin?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I just want to talk about the hub for a minute. And the hub, there is lots of plans evolving with the hub, and certainly we have allocated funds saying that is our next phase. And I'm glad you mentioned about the swimming pool, because part of the hub development will probably include the YMCA, and certainly hopefully to expand upon swimming facilities. So the hub is key. I look at what's going on up at the Agriplex, and once again, it's multi-use until we get to that stage. And I'm part of the Ag Society there, and I was involved heavily with the background work on trying to facilitate something. If you get a chance, visit it, because some of the facilities in there are nice. The lapidary is beautiful. The wood shop is crazy beautiful. The pool room, there's a lot of nice things. Is it what they had previously? Absolutely not. But it's a little stopgap until we get to the hub, because certainly the SLA is our first priority when we get to the hub. The second thing I'd like to share is a little vision for Market Square. You mentioned European cities up there. In a small town in Holland is called Franeker. And in that small town, there's a pillar on each end of the Market Square kitty corner, and it goes way up in the air. I'm going to say 35 feet. And there's a big cable that goes all the way across. And on event days, they hit a button, and a big canopy falls out for sun and or rain, for shade. And that's one of my thoughts for going forward, because there is talk about second phase of not having parking there at all, and make it truly, when I close my eyes and envision that, absolutely, then it's pedestrian. But something, because we're in an environment now that we have not only protect from the wind and the rain, we have to be cautious of our sun, like, even with the kickoff. So there's, the beauty is, I think there's lots of interest here in Stratford, and there's a lot of desire to move forward in those community spaces. Nobody's saying, no, we don't want you any more of that. I think people are embracing it for sure.
I'm a Stratford resident and have been for many years myself. I have something to say too. I know the city has a plan to move forward with funding for all parks. Eventually, they need to start replacing things and things like that. I'd really like to see them continue plans for water fountains everywhere. Like, there really should be more encouragement to be outside in the green spaces, fill your water bottles, get on your bikes and go to the outside parks too, not just the Market Square, like the C.H. Meyer, wherever in town. If there's some way to incorporate water fountains, and accessibility, because not all the parks are accessible, or have things for people with disabilities like deaf and low vision or no vision to do at the parks, not just the big physical things like the slides and things like that. So some tactile things that even senior citizens continue to focus on the different age groups. When senior citizens take their grandkids and have like little tricycle paths or things that they can play with as preschoolers. Continue with the youth charging stations like at the skate park. Let's encourage them to be outside, but they're gonna have their phones, it's reality, so let's give them that kind of stuff. The benches under trees, the shade, whether it's artificial or natural, let's start incorporating more of the littler things into the budget. Not, I know we're gonna have priorities of the Cooper site and continue with Market Square, but let's remember all the other spaces too, because we really have some amazing parks here, but we need to spread the love.
One of the things you mentioned that, and I brought it forward in our second last meeting, is the idea for accessibility in parks. I've seen other communities where they put the picnic benches on cement pads and then accessible to those picnic benches
Right.
off the pads.
Yeah.
So people in wheelchairs or walkers, etc.,
Yes.
can approach those picnic tables and not struggle with accessibility. So there, you're right, and a lot of our public spaces are things that we can do to make it better for everybody.
And I think year round too. Like, I know in the wintertime when I'm
Yes.
out walking, there's not always a garbage can, there's not always a recycling can. That's 12 months a year, right? We need those things when we're in the parks to put our garbage.
I have a question. I hope Christy's not going to be mad at me for not being positive and solution focused. But I'll ask you for a solution. But and a question, like why some of the garbage cans are definitely removed in the winter, especially around the river. Why is that?
And that's a good question.
Like,
That's
why?
a question to ask of city staff. That's a good question.
Because I have a dog and I still like to walk her in the winter and she still
Yeah.
poops.
You need
So
a
if you want me to make sure that I put my poop bag in a garbage, there better be a garbage there. And not just one around the river or two on either side. It's a little inconvenient. So
I've heard that comment about TJ Dolan.
yeah, garbage
garbage receptacles in
everywhere
TJ
would be
Dolan.
good.
There's garbage everywhere.
I mean, like not every 2 meters, say, but you know, every however many
Well,
meters.
TJ Dolan only has one at the entrance.
Yeah.
Well, and I
that's it.
wonder if that's just accessibility in the winter. Our workers just can't get there to carry it out. I'm guessing on that one. I don't really know.
The other thing, Denise, you mentioned about public spaces, the one piece that if you're using a public space, not only do dogs have to poop, but people do too. That's not on camera, but the addition, of, oh my God,
Public bathroom.
the addition of the public bathroom on the North Shore and leaving the washroom on the arena open, because that is a space where people cycle, and so I'm proud that we've taken that on as a challenge, because it's one thing to have an open space and a public space, but if people are going to use them, then you need those amenities, like you say, the chargers and the water fountains and the washrooms.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of cyclists that have to poop, they also have to have somewhere to park their bikes. And as a cyclist, I do find a distinct lack of bike parking as well, in parks especially. Like, so they've added it downtown, Market Square and so on, but we're not always going there. A lot of times we're actually going to the park. And I know with my kids, we've for years like lined our 3-4 bikes up and locked them to each other to a tree.
Yeah, to a tree.
There's no other options. Or if you lock them to the bench, then people can't sit down. So there really is a lack of bike parking at a lot of our public spaces as well.
Even our biking master plan, I was encouraged this past week. There was some movement in regards to moving on with the master plan for cycling. It's unfortunate we weren't prepared a little while ago, and we lost out on some funding that 144 communities that applied all that funding, and I'm just hoping that we're not in that position again, to be ready if there is funding that come up. Despite my physique, I do occasionally get out on a bicycle, and I do enjoy it. And I think it's important to Stratford to get around. If you've cycled other places like London, you can go from one end of the city to the other through pathways and go on very few streets. It's excellent.
You know, I would just add also, if you see in the park, our park, most of from Kitchener, from Waterloo, they're coming, even for picnic in the morning, or, you know, I don't say from which country, they just parked, okay? Most of, you know, some of Stratford and go already parked. Like maybe we can organize maybe different ways, maybe more chair, that type of thing. If you go to in Godrej, you know Godrej? There is special even fitness, a kind of fitness. The Rotary Club, they did, you know, bunch of even, oh my God, I don't believe that. When I go sometimes I come to some fitness in Godrej.
Yeah.
Maybe if we are working with Rotary Club, Rotary Club, they just giving money away for foreign countries, international. We have to look our families here. We have to look our charity starting from home, right? The money is going for outside. I'm not something against, right? We have to look our here. You know that type of thing. We need our park to take care of. We are cleaning once per month, newcomers.
Yes.
We're picking garbage. Nice. We walk in, we dance in African, we're collecting paper.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Sometimes, I mean, you guys, you're doing, I didn't say something bad, but we need work, especially with park.
Okay.
And the park is